Also.
Hello, everybody, and welcome with the smallest of delays to the show where we
Almost
demystify.
imperceptible.
Almost imperceptible, I would say. Science has yet to confirm whether or not the delay is even really there. And I say, welcome to the show where we demystify the DMing process, DM Writer's Room. Now, today you might notice that the setup is a little tiny bit different. Now, there's a reason for that. What's up?
I do have. I need access to our Roll20.
Why?
Or which one are we on?
The same one as our the Blaze one.
Blades. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay.
I thought we might have a new one. There we go.
Now that we've had that flippant distraction, we can get back to it. Hello, everybody.
I like being flippant.
We are going to be working on the world map for our little setting here, because as you may have noticed from last time, we kind of realized that we didn't sort of have one. And that was a little bit of an obstacle for us. It was starting to get a little confusing sometimes, what exactly we were referring to. So, on a mildly condensed timetable, we are going to be trying to figure out where the swamp is. Where are the mountains? How far are we from the North Pole? Are all of these things on the same sections of our large continent? Now, we know a couple of things. We know that we are on a not quite supercontinent, but definitely all of our continents are relatively close together. And we're not on a circular planet. So I don't need to worry about drawing some projection to kind of make it more clear for us, right? We're on a plane that slowly dissipates into the planes of earth, water, and air. And we are nestled in the center of those three planes. So we thankfully don't need to worry too much about a lot of those extraneous bits that in other situations, we might kind of get caught up in. So let's start, I think, with just a scale question, right? How big is the world? Very loose. We don't need this to be a super, concise thing. But here's my question. If the swamp is at the edge, right, is water facing, where is the north? Where is colder? Where is colder? Is North Pole cold? Because there's no north. Because we're on a non-Newtonian fluid disk of fantasy, whimsy, and all-around joy. Now, we know that the dragons cause the climates to exist. So we don't need to worry about it too hard. But my question is, where is it cold? Is North cold just because we like it when North is cold, and that's easy to keep track of?
We might as well make North cold.
Great.
I don't see a reason.
I'm cool with
not
that.
to.
Now a related question. How do people know where North is?
It's not called North. It's called Cold Word.
Cold word. We got cold word. We got swamp word.
The compasses point
We got-
towards
let
Let
cold.
me ask a question. So if I go down by the river and I get a leaf and I take a pin out of my bag and I rub a magnet on it and I put it on the leaf to make a makeshift compass and I float it on a little pond, what the fuck happens?
That brings you to the forest biome. Because you did a leaf. But if you did like an ice cube, it would bring you to the north.
Fun enough, magnetism isn't a thing in this world.
Yeah,
Magnets don't
there
exist.
can't be a magnet. The world's not a magnet in this world because
Yeah,
it's
there's
not
no
a big
magnets.
spinning ball of molten metals. Hello? So, number one, do compass work? And number two, how? Where does it take you? Do we have some kind of elemental wheel compass that you attune to the different biomes that guides you across the face of the earth?
I think it's kind of sick.
Like,
It's
do you-
almost it's similar, not not super similar, a little similar to the compass in One Piece. Points you to the next island. It's not magnetically charged or anything, but it keys into the next island.
This is just a big
Almost.
choice.
I think it should be things that are attuned to the location you're trying to get to. You want to get to the swamp, you got to get a clump of moss, and you got to get somebody who's magical to cast a spell on it that lets it tell you where the swamp is in relation to you. You want to get to the north, you got to find like a frozen pebble or whatever
To
from the
the
north,
cold.
and then have it attuned to get to the cold. Then you got to do
Okay.
that.
So in that case, we know at least that somewhere here, it's real cold. And if you take out a compass, and you attune it to the Arctic signature, it takes you to where the cold is. We also know, right, that this is where, let me switch colors. We also know that this is where our sort of aurora borealis is. It's up here somewhere. This is a dangerous, mystical place. You're all going to get to enjoy our art skills. There's not a drawing tablet in the crowd, right? Oh, Michael, do you have a...
I don't have a way to really hook it up that well.
So we're all just mouse and cursor, so be nice. So, the North American perspective is where we're going to get a little weird here, right? Because all three of us are in the contiguous United States. Here's my next question. Is there another cold part at the bottom?
No.
Nope.
Okay.
Other question. I'm seeing our. I'm in Blaze of Dark. I'm seeing our gallery museum. So really did not see that.
Yeah, here. I've hijacked it.
There
Getting
we
jump
go.
gated.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
there doesn't need to be cold in the
And
south.
you guys just got a hot sneak peek of a future. By somebody. Merely the word museum is giving away too much.
Yeah. Listen in, because we're going to have a fully edited podcast where that museum comes in. So.
I also did mention Blaze of the Dark, so you know it's.
Oh, so
tried
you
to-
know.
Oh,
wow,
come
we
on!
got
All right, Michael's off the
lots.
show. All right, we're gonna have to go into rewrites. All right.
I broke the NDA. I'm sorry.
Okay, so up is cold.
Yeah.
Up is cold.
Yes.
Great. We also
Down
know
is hot.
we also know middle hot. Because we said the desert was in the middle. Wait, let me actually put that in the middle. We said desert hot, desert in the middle. Great.
Yep.
Where's the swamp?
I think that the desert can be a little bit pushed over, and the swamp can be like middle left on the map. So there's
Lift
a
it
like-
up a little bit.
they're hitting.
So this
Yeah,
is
like
swamp.
that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we're just going super vague here, and I'll undo a lot of these lines as we figure things out.
This is what we're publishing for our viewers out there. It's gonna look just like this.
Okay, so if that's all right. So let's make those changes now. So if the swamp is around here, and these things, I don't know how like circular these things are, and then the desert doesn't need to be like huge. The desert can be central, right? Actually, I'm gonna take the time to do that to all of these. I don't want us to have a. Let's shrink the north down a little bit as well to sort of suit it to our creative vision here. Let me get this nice ice blue color. So that's the north. All right. Now, we have, it's the mountains, but it's just kind of a mountain.
Yeah, the mountain.
Yeah.
Now, we know it's north of the swamp, right? We know it's near the swamp, I should say, and it's coastal, so we know it's either north or south of the swamp. Do we want it to be north of the swamp, interposed between cold and swamp, or do we want it to be south of the swamp, far from the cold?
I think north. Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, I was thinking north too, because we did reference the there are outcropping. There's the glacial village that's a part of the mountain. It's not part of the mountain, but it's part of the mountain team.
Okay, so we've got a loose concept of where a couple of these things are, which I like. So now, let me grab these. shrink them down.
Grabbing.
I'm gonna shrink them.
Sure.
I'm gonna shrink them a little bit. Oh, come on. I can't. My cursor won't move the whole thing because I'm so zoomed out. Please. Thank you. All right, so let's get that more central. Now, how much... Sorry, I'm not trying to jump on you, but how much is water? Like
between these places?
No, more around, like, if you're looking at our world, do we get the kind of circular disc that we crave, and that's our world while you are still within its bounds before you slip ethereally into the eternal plane of water? Or is it, like... Do we have... How much of a continental, like, shape are we rocking with?
Oh, well... We've already established sort of the importance of coastline waters, like coastal waters. So I think that we should have like continental shaping like you've got right now that then branches from like coastline waters to that middle distance water to like the edge where it becomes, you know, the next plane.
So in that case, I'm gonna zoom in quite a bit and we're gonna adjust our whole scale so that we are working in the center. Let me grab a nice ocean water blue color. Actually, where's two that one of them looks worse than the other one? There, that's a good one. That's a good line right there. Okay, cool. So let me do this. So assuming that the swamp is kind of weird. Okay, so let's give just like a loose... This is just absolute freewheeling. I'm not super worried about it being like solid in any way. So if that is the... So let's make our sort of band of unsafety. Okay. Now, do I have a... I don't think I have a bucket. I don't have a bucket, which is hugely disappointing. All right.
That's all right. Just do diagonal line.
Yeah, so this is our sort of, you know, this is our... unsafe waters. This is, you know, you don't want to be here compared to the sort of more safe outside waters. And our outside waters, right, are just kind of filling the rest of the space. This looks so professional.
Like I said, this is where we're
It
publishing.
reads.
I mean, it reads. That's true.
If you just lined up two of the islands and got rid of two of the other ones, it looks almost like a face with a guy with like really luxurious curly hair.
Just like really vibing out. Yeah. So, and we know that we have some islands floating. Let's figure that out in a minute. Because we know we're mostly continental here, right? So, we described the area as kind of like having arms like a galaxy, kind of swirling out. How literal is that? Are we trying to evoke looking at a galaxy? Is there that sense of like arms that crash into each other and split and divide? Is it closer to, you know, an amoeba? Something that's like large kind of blob thing with sections that are off? Or does it look like a kind of archipelago, like islands that are very, very close to one another? What are we visualizing as we talk about that? Because it occurs to me, I was thinking literal galactic arms kind of vibe, and that we were going to pick what direction this thing turns today. But it occurs to me I might be the only one thinking that.
I was picturing more amoeba-esque, where the movements are mostly situated around one core spot, and there's some little extremity pieces, but within there's a fair amount of movement, but the core section remains a core section 99% of the time.
See, I was thinking, it kind of mixed with the two. I was thinking Spiral Galaxy. It's our galaxy is like that core, but it has the arms that are swirling all around.
Of the various archipelago.
Yeah.
Like the small islands.
All right, so if we try to visualize some of that, I'm gonna switch to a large brush because we're doing coastline now, and I'm gonna try to get just a little bit of. So if we're imagining just like a little bit of good geographic nonsense, I'm gonna draw. So if this will be our like central amoeba, right? Things are crooked. Things don't grow straight. I think that works. And so now the question is, so now it sounds like what we're almost visualizing is there's a few large islands, each of which kind of signals the opening of one of these chains that are like lowercase s safe. You can get to them. Not everybody on them is dead, like in some of the other islands that we've seen that have drifted out into the kind of like nighttime sea. And there's probably some, you know, some like connected chains that kind of swirl off. And I imagine when they start to drift out to sea, because we know that for some reason, when that happens, everybody dies. Right? These islands rot. When they are found again, they are covered with undead. I'm trying to make sure that they loosely match with shapes that they would have been knocked out of, because we do know that this
They're
is
looking
like
pretty sick.
Like a living. I've drawn a lot of maps in my day, and it's all right that they're a little soft because it sounds like our world is kind of a little malleable. That one looks a lot like New Jersey.
That is going to be the new kingdom name on that spot, is New Jersey.
Okay.
Rapidly going out into the deep sea.
So, how does... All right, so now that I have that, I can delete our water lines. So, I gotta be honest, I'm kind of happy with that coastline.
Yeah, it's looking
All right, how far out do the islands go? And
before they become...
yeah, where is the death line? And how fast does that happen? Because that's big for the world map, right? That line, if that exists and it happens within a day, that's a line that somebody has drawn on the map. Or is it kind of hazy? Is it after they lose contact, eventually it seems like everyone dies?
So what we had said before was, it's not even magical what kills them. It's just none of those small islands are self-sufficient. They all require other big islands or continents to support themselves, like via trade. So when they veer out into the deep sea where nobody can get to them, they starve to death. So everybody ends up dying within several months because there's just no trade to them. Because the waters are so dangerous, nobody's going to send out ships to resupply a random island.
Okay, so the thing that makes true that I like then is as the islands get further away, much like on our world, they get smaller. So it's never the case that like this big section of the continent will just lodge off and fly off into nowhere. It's a big piece breaks off, and then a medium piece breaks off, and then once a small piece starts to break off, they evacuate. But if you're dumb enough to stay, that small piece will be small enough to just drift off completely.
And given the right circumstances with like the shifting, not plates, but sands that we've developed, sometimes a smaller medium island will just rapidly pull apart. So, oops. Didn't evacuate fast enough.
I have two things I'd like to make true, if you all are okay with it. I want one. Only one time has this ever happened. Nobody knows why. A big chunk went way past and is now in. It is now in the elemental plane of water.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we talked about the thought that sometimes islands will sink and things like that. I like the idea that a big section just went off one day, and who knows why, right? It could be there could be a million reasons. All right.
And then the second one is there are some small islands that they have tried to tie off into main islands, so because they're important enough that they said no, we can't lose this little piece.
Okay, so huge question: does that work? Can you put a bunch of big fish hooks in one of these islands and drag it back to the body of the amoeba? Does that happen? If so, whatever power of the world has the technology to do that, most likely to mountains, Well, no, the mountains has the coast. They don't need another cool power. But, you know, maybe somebody over here in kind of the equivalent of the eastern part of our continent can do that. I'm looking at this mountain chain, which just for fun, these two I drew, right, with kind of a lot of smaller islands. Maybe in that area, smaller islands are more common, and so they developed this technology, and that makes them like a huge power. Because people, you know, an island can pay them to come bring their hook ships around to drag it. So does that work? Or is that just something people do out of desperation and it doesn't actually do anything?
I think it works, but it's prohibitively expensive. And the other issue is when you hook your like island to one of these larger islands, the risk that that larger island will get pulled out is exponentially increased. Whereas normally it's the smaller ones that get pulled. If you attach it to a medium island's probably going to get pulled way sooner than it would have normally via natural causes. So there's a cost. And then they say, well, we'll just connect it to the next large island. It's like, okay. But then, after the big one's gone, what are you going to do? You're going to run out.
So I like that. So there's kind of two. So what I like the idea that every now and again. Okay, I have a pitch. So isle to isle is the cheap version of this surface, right? Mm-hmm. We show up, we install the thing, and you like braces. They're like you winch it once every day, and in a year, the island will be reattached. Or you can pay for the halt for our tugboat. A ship, and that ship will just pull it, and there's no risk associated. But the ship costs, you know, a 2 million gold. Like it's a truly fantastical number. Is how much it costs to get the ship to do it. And I think that sometimes rich megalomaniacs pay to have an island made. They pay to rip a part off of the continent so that they can have like a secluded area. And the ship's like, hey man, I get paid either way. You know, I don't care.
That's fun. I like that.
Okay, isle to isle, isle to ship. So we have a little bit of a galactic arm thing. We can imagine more islands. I don't feel like drawing more. And we don't need to sort of be stuck there for too long. So now my question is, I want to draw our dangerous ocean line again. And this time I'm going to give it the dangerous ocean fill. Let's see if that's going to work like I want it to. Absolutely the fuck not. It's not going to work at all. It immediately went so wrong. Everybody ignore that happened or you're fired.
Yep.
All right, cool. So, how far away from the continent, from the islands, is the danger zone? Does the danger zone, like, can these islands go out into the danger zone and still exist? Or not so much?
I think as soon as they enter the danger zone, like off coast, they are written off. You can't get supplies anymore. There's a chance there's still survivors, so a party can go and try and rescue at that point, but nobody else is doing that sort of thing.
So are any of these small islands, like... So I guess my question is, how artificial is that barrier? So I have two versions of it that we could do here, right? And let me make sure I'm centered on stream. I'm not at all. All right, there we go. So option one, by my view, right, is that danger zone is kind of in and among the islands. And so that was my first image, right? It's like in and amongst the islands. Once an island is fully outside, it's in really big trouble. But these islands that are starting to touch it are the ones where it's like, we need to evacuate, you know, this is going to be a big problem. And eventually, right, all those islands drift back with time. It's just sometimes that takes a month, sometimes that takes years. If it takes a month, the people might live. So that's option one. Option two is that the danger zone follows the islands. Because the creatures, for whatever reason, right, don't go into the shallows. But eventually, if one of these things gets too far, it'll break the bubble. And it'll go out. And then all of a sudden, monsters, like, flood into the area that it just left. Because now it's kind of in their territory. Which of those two do we like better? I'm not really attached to either. It's just a question of... the monsters are kept out of the dangerous water by the presence of these massive sea beasts we still need to draw. what keeps them away from land? Is it just that it's shallow? In which case, maybe it does like follow the islands. And the problem is once an island gets too small, it gets too deep around it, right? The cutoff gets faster. Or is it a like kind of arbitrary line, put there by something? And when an island drifts past it, you just have to evacuate.
I think it follows the islands. And as they drift further, they get less and less coastline.
All right.
And
So in that case, I'm going to... So let's pick some islands. Can you guys draw, or do I need to like give you permission to draw or something?
let me see. I can draw.
So let's kill off some islands. So who's outside? Pick some islands. So who's dead? Is anybody dead?
I'm gonna mark in red.
Yeah, that's what I had the same thought. All right, so we like him being
dead.
screwed. I think this tiny one obviously is outside.
I think even all three of these bad boys.
Ooh.
Okay, that's fine. I think maybe he is, but the other one isn't because his distance to this is pretty close.
This one could be connected.
That one's probably dead. I'm going to say these two. Hey, somebody had the exact same thought as me. Our lines popped up at the same time. Okay. And I think this one's fine because it is, again, there's the gap between it and this here isn't too far. All right. So now if I draw the danger line and I try to, let me try and abide by our, so, okay. So the danger, well, I need to remember that ships, right, need to stay, we said they need to stay like very close to the coast.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing hugs like real tight. All right, so there we go. All right.
Is this our first map making
It is.
stream?
It is, yeah.
Wow.
'Cause
Welcome everybody to our inaugural.
In our Wild West, we did that. We definitely did that off stream in the meeting.
We
We had a whole
came with
special meeting to
like
do
our
it.
own.
Yeah.
We came with our own design, I think.
Yeah, we brought
definitely
them.
didn't make it.
We brought them to stream.
But they were all really similar because we really talked out
Mm.
locations and stuff for Prospect.
All right. Now, how big is the danger zone? So this is safe water. How big's the danger zone? And this is just visual, and I don't think we need to attach miles to it. So here's my question: is the danger zone like? Let me switch to a large cursor so that it's nice and readable. Is it like
This
right
is
there?
what I was thinking.
So it's like out there. The
Yeah.
border of the danger zone.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, you got quite a bit.
Let me stick to I'm going to try to stick to our island structure a little bit. But
Yeah,
I like
that
so
was
keep
just showing off
keep
a
that red line
typical-
where it is though, because we can delete the red line later. So
Got it.
I'm gonna have to kind of. So this is a weird trick I have for anybody in the future drawing maps. This is a show where we demystify the DMing process. So I try to take the time to make sure that we are explaining things. When I'm drawing a map like this, I have a couple of goals, right? Number one, I want coastlines and things to be varied. So when I'm drawing, I am quite purposefully kind of shaking my hand and taking a weird route because I want
funky
there
with it.
to be a lot of texture, right? Another thing that I will often do, if you can blur your vision, like if you can make your eyes unfocus, I will unfocus my eyes while I draw maps constantly. And I actually really recommend it as long as that won't give you a headache. Just haze your vision a little bit and see if anything looks stupid. Straight up, just see if anything looks dumb, because every now and again you're going to look at something you drew and you're going to be like, that looks kind of weird,
I
or I just don't like where that is. You know, I feel like that could be served a little better being here or being there. I'm not sure that was a great choice. And it's a good idea to take that opportunity to literally haze your vision and back up a couple of feet. When I do that here, I like the look. I think it looks a little bit like a continent. It looks a little bit like the tectonic plate that would be there if tectonic plates existed. They don't, so it's not a big deal. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to draw a couple of truly dead islands. I want to see what that, like, what is that? So we have a couple of, like, I want to have a few small ones attached to these same chains. And I like that as they get smaller, right, they're drifting further and further. Give us kind of that archipelago. I'm thinking of like the end of Alaska, right? This sweeping, branching spot, right? Because you can kind of see that some of these are these big islands, but they've broken apart into such small pieces that they're kind of, you know, they're kind of done now. So when I have a pitch for something that I think is interesting. And I'm not super committed to it because I'm not sure if it's stupid. It might be a little too cartoon logic. My first thought with these tiny islands that float off, the question needs to be, if as they get smaller, they are kind of like flung into the ocean, it sounds like. As they get smaller, they move faster and faster. So there is an element of like a pitch as they speed up. My question then becomes, what decelerates them, turns them around, and throws them back? I see two options. One, if they stay tiny islands, it's the current. They go too far out, and they are deflected back by these massive beasts. The other option I see is like condensation on a car window. The tiny islands get flung out into the far sea, and slowly they begin to collide with other small islands until they get too heavy, and they start to pull back into the shape. Those are the two options I see. I'm fine with either. So either one, the tiny islands can only go so far before the current pulls them back in. Or two, the tiny islands spread out until they start to aggregate, and something about like the mass of that is too much, and they begin to... My mental justification in our lore book would be as they are getting smaller, the thing that makes them accelerate, it's like, oh, it's tectonic drift. It's like, no, they're getting they're becoming smaller particles of the elemental plane of earth. And so they're more compatible with the elemental plane of water. And as they combine, they become too much the elemental plane of earth. And so it pulls them back towards the continent, would be my justification there. Or is big monsters swimming? And it just pushes them back.
Number one, only because I want there to be a lost continent.
Which one was one?
Number one is the
Big creatures.
Monsters
Okay.
knock it back.
Cool.
Mm.
So in that case, these very tiny ones are pretty much the only things that exist. And so how often do big chunks go sailing?
Not very.
Did it only
not very
happen
often.
once?
It's like a big chunk only happened once. The rest of the time, like the medium islands that we've got going, like I'm gonna mark this one in red.
Yeah, you
like
can also
that
don't forget you can also
happens-
select and press and hold and ping.
I think ones like that go like after like 100 years, maybe one time. Every 100
So every
years,
once in a
150
while.
years, one will drift off. Yeah,
Okay.
but like big once.
So, and now the biggest question: can we see the lost continent? Is it capital L lost as in we don't know where it is, we can't find it? Or is it lost as in it's way the fuck over there and we can't get to it?
I think capital L lost. It would be an adventure in and of itself to find it.
Means I don't have to draw it. Hell yeah. Great. Fantastic. I love it.
Think of it in your memory. Or
All
your
right.
Thoughts.
So if our deep ocean is out here, my next question is how big are the currents? How large are they? How big are these big? I'm going to use like a really vivid blue for this, and I'm going to go extra large for the size of my thing here. So, assuming that the great dragon of the ocean is this titanic worm, is it like that big? Is it taking up like a quarter to a fifth of the total space around the continent? Is it this titanic, unimaginable creature whose head is the size of a mountain range? And so there's, maybe assuming that's the largest, are there a couple of these creatures and maybe a few more on the outside who swim and trade huge territories. That's option 1.
Yes.
Or is the dragon of the ocean big, but like the size of one of the medium islands? And there are many, many of these monsters that swim the ocean around and cause the tides.
Number 1, because I want to name each section of the ocean after one of the worms.
Now, we're zodiacking this, so we should pick a good number.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's 1, 3, 5, 7, 13, 12
I think 5, and one of them is like
is the dragon.
the dragon. Yeah.
Oh, so we only have 4 Zodiac. Okay.
Well, no, the dragon's one of them.
Oh, okay.
And that's big.
And we could
If
say,
you were born under the dragon, it's big.
and I think it's different to be born under Tiresias the crab, tailwards or headwards. You know, I think there's some, you know,
Okay.
compartmentalization of that as well.
Sure.
Taurus rise.
Yeah.
Now, is that... So my next question would be, you know, do those 5 chunks do this? Is it like a pretty clean cut, this is the territory of Tiresias, and these things like circle around every year or so? Or do our 5 segments do, you know, do this kind of thing, and a lot of them share parts of their territory but not others? Like, how clean cut is everything?
I think number 2, and that's what makes the like sea readers, the people who can understand the currents, so important and hard to follow, is because those things overlap and interchange and move around pretty regularly.
Is there...
So the people who can read.
So major question related. Is there like an annual cycle? Can you crack open a farmer's almanac and figure it out a little? Or is it random and you need to try to find the hunting patterns those monsters are following this year to figure out where they're going? Or is there kind of a rhythm to it?
I would say is a little bit of rhythm, but the hunting patterns are the annual piece of it.
Yeah, there's general guidelines because it's like every year Eryximethys typically, you know, hunts in this area, and there's going to be some interchange here. So you're probably safe on the eastern side at this month. But if you're actually going out there, you need to talk to somebody who's like, yeah, we've been watching with telescopes, and the way it's been moving over the last 3 weeks makes me think that it's actually going to be going into these waters right now. And it's like,
Yeah,
oh, really?
Yeah, we saw Thylissa. She's a little ahead of schedule at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Thylissa's on the warpath right now, actually. Don't go there.
So
I know
let me-
the almanac says it's okay. Do not do it.
Let me pick a corner of our map here then, and let's make one of these. So let's say that... All right, so I've got some ideas because we're thinking about this as like the start of a zodiac sign. So let's say that the dragon right now is occupying this pretty huge slice of the pie. And so they would say that he is landwards because he is connected to this. And then I think that kind of branching off of that large territory is like a narrow band that opens over to here. That's another one. Other creatures don't want to mess with that territory, but they still swim around and need their own food. So that's 1, 2, 3. All right. So it's a little arbitrary, but how do we feel about how do we feel about that? Does that look kind of
That's
correct?
cool.
Yeah, I like
Now-
that.
And
Like,
are those
now I gotta fix
swirling
this.
around? And
Yeah.
they'll make a rotation every 2 years, 1 year, 6 months.
I
whatever.
don't think they necessarily swirl around. I think that this one, you know, could go this way, or it could go this way this year. You don't know which way they're going to decide to turn. And I do think they fight, and that's what causes monsoon. That's what causes like typhoon season.
Yeah, the big stuff.
Like the reason there is a storm so when somebody says it's the stormy season, they don't mean cold fronts and hot fronts are clashing. They mean on the eastern part of the continent, you know, Doraveanok, Lord of Waves, and Olenveranos have started clashing. They're literally fighting in the ocean, and it is causing bad weather on that half of the continent.
Yeah, that's sick. Now, what determines your birth sign? Is it who you were closest to at the time of the birth, or is it in relation to like the tip of the continent? Like,
So-
where's the mark?
So my question most related there is like, how big? So like, this is the dragon's hunting territory right here, right? I think that makes sense. Is the dragon this big and takes up the majority of that? Or is the dragon this big? And like swirls around it, protecting and being territorial. Because a
I
creature
feel
of
like,
that
too-
mass moving that fast, it doesn't really matter. All that's going to change is, are they smaller and more violent? Or are they larger and slower?
I think number 2, they're smaller and more violent. Or number 1, smaller and more violent.
So, okay, I think that makes a lot of sense. So, again, a creature of this mass moving at that speed is going to cause titanic waves. We don't really need to sweat too much. Like, is it big enough? That's what she said. So if I give a couple of examples, so I think, and then we want the dragon to be, biggest, gnarliest. So let's give him an arrowhead or something, just so we can. That's a great arrowhead, guys. Hard to draw anything specific here. So I think the thing that decides your zodiac sign is, number 1, which of these creatures were you closest to when you were born? And then number 2 is, were you towards its head? Were you towards its tail? Were you in its territory but nowhere near its body? And I think that kind of gives a sense. My guess is there's a big component of, like Aries are thought of and Tauruses are thought of as being like very aggressive. I think if you were born headwards, there's an association of like aggression and firm-headedness. And if you're born in the absent sea, it's like being a fucking Pisces or an air sign or something, where they're like, oh, they're flighty, they're not as centered, because literally you weren't centered on the creature.
Mm-hmm.
And then
And in the
beyond,
back, you're grounded.
huh?
Tailward, you're grounded. The open sea, you're, watery.
Yeah, you're like, ooh, and
do
other
we
than
wanna
that, it depends on the
develop them?
creatures. So like, I think the dragon, it sounds like, doesn't attack ships. I think one of these guys sometimes goes after ships, and the association with that one is quite negative. It's kind of your Scorpio, right? It's like, ooh, you're a Dorixa Vinox headwards. People are like, so no second date? That sucks.
That guy's a real Rix Veninax.
Yeah,
Hilarious.
He seemed
insult.
nice. That blows. The thought that people get really into this. Huge question. Is it true? How true is it? Do you actually have an do you have a mild association with the creature, but not, headwards, tailwards personality? Is it like a star sign? It has some gentle effect on you? Does it have no effect and these people are just weird?
I really want the dragon to have a real effect, like a la Theros, where it's like, oh yeah, you're a favorite of the god, you get this one little ability. So it's fun to be like, yeah, if you're born with the sign of the dragon, then you get this cool thing. But then
But the other ones don't matter?
Everybody else.
Oh.
Well, that would be shitty. That would feel really bad.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, my guy was born with the sign of the dragon. I don't know about you guys.
I think it's
Yeah,
got to be all or none, because I don't want 9 Sign of the Dragon players every
It'd
campaign.
be so funny.
Yeah,
It would be so funny.
I think it'd be very fun to have all have a gentle little thing.
And I think it's
Have a boon.
I think it's mild. I think you have a connection to the creature. I think it's just a very mild one. It's something, and people just really overinvest it. They're like, no, it's like the most important thing about you.
It is my personality.
Let me check how large the normal pencil is now so that I can see if it's time for me to shrink the map again. Yeah, it's time for us to shrink the map again.
Okay.
So, another little pro tip I have for people. When you're drawing a big map, every once in a while, your scale is going to start to get a little funky, especially if you're in a system like Roll20. Just take a minute every once in a while to just drag the corners of whatever you're drawing back onto the map and see what it looks like. You can always Control Z if it messes with the proportions too much. Like, I think this messed with the proportions too much because of the V. The V threw me off, so let me move the V. I'm not here to delete people's work. Oh, come on, I can't grab this. Who drew this dot? I'm so glad chat can watch me look for the 1 pixel of grab on the dot that I can get. All right, cool. So here, let me grab this.
While you're doing that, I love the idea. I think we save that for another session because the world.
For like how the star signs affect you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works for me.
All right.
Or
so
we have time later. But
looking at the whole picture here, do we want the continent to warp in any particular way? Do you guys want me to move any of these lines more?
No, we're good.
I think. The only thing I was saying, could we make the map look like it has that chunk out of it a little bit? But
the continent that broke off.
Not Roll20. Oh, you mean can we take a bite out of where the missing continent is?
Yeah.
Sure. Tell me where the missing continent is.
I feel like we're already seeing a bit of a gap here for islands.
Okay.
So if that's the section that broke off, we could just like highlight that a little bit more, and it would tell that story.
Let me draw like a light gray. It's kind of interesting to think that the let me see if I can let me see if I'm good enough at this. I don't think I am. That I can draw like dash marks.
Ooh.
So like that's how big of a chunk we're talking about. That whole thing like went off.
Yep.
And these islands I think are remnants. I think they're bits that are still adrift from when that happened.
And it'd be fun to go visit that spot to try. Okay. I'm getting into real finicky stuff here for like gaming. But if you go there and you take like a stone off of the pillar of the church that was broken in half when it split, and you use that with a mage to say, give me a guide to the location, they can give you like the scry compass to get to the lost continent. Would be a fun little adventure hook where it's like, oh yeah, you've got the beat on it.
You find a piece.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Go ahead.
I think it'd be cool. This happened pre-people. This is where a bunch of giants still live, and they're probably different than what giants
like
here are.
Perfectly isolated from the zombie curse.
They didn't get sick. That's pretty sick.
I think that's a really cool adventure module. Is you get there and it's the throne of the giants are still there and they don't even remember who they. It would be kind of fun if they kind of worship the old giant empire without understanding it was an empire. Like if they talk about the old emperor like he was a god, and now they worship that pantheon because it's been thousands of years and they don't hundreds of years, and they don't remember anymore that those people were anything else. Okay, cool. So now we're gonna zoom in on the swamp. Let's figure out some stuff about the swamp, huh? So let me get in.
Before we go swamp, there were 2 biomes that we haven't talked about in game, but I think it'd be cool to have them.
Sure.
And just throw them on the map. The forest. DeForest.
DeForest.
And this would be more of, again, a little bit of a module. The corrupted.
Corrupted's tough because we need to pick
It is.
like a global. That means we're making like a global threat that's not super addressed. I mean, we talked about a bunch of undead living in the middle of the desert. Is that bad for the desert?
Probably.
I mean, unironically, Spencer Scrub, I thought for sure he was going to come back with French fries. Came back with a Pepsi. So, like, is all of those undead living centered in the... Damn it. All of those undead living centered in the desert. Is that bad for the desert? Does the desert have, like, more undead there? Is there a sense of decay and corruption? Is it a big deal to have 100 or, you know, a couple thousand undead living in a city? Or is the corrupted biome a dragon that's dying or something? Somebody, you know, the dragon was supposed to have been killed by another. Puts into my head the idea that the dragons, when they're going to die, have a bunch of kids. And one of the kids kills them and takes over the biome. But it's like, what causes corruption? Is it too many undead? Is there a portal to the abyss? And now we're going to include some version of like the Nine Hells or the, you know, the 7,000 layers of Shalul or whatever the fuck they call the abyss in the Forgotten Realms. Like, what are we going with?
I think easy solution without muddying anything up too bad isn't that like the intelligent undead gather here. What's corrupted about the desert is that's where most people don't get to the water in time and so die on the journey. So when they come back as ghouls or ghasts or whatever, there's just roaming hordes of non-intelligent undead that you have to worry about.
So the dead
Like, that's the
center
problem.
of the desert is a safe zone. The rest of the desert sucks.
It's like, good luck with all the 18 trillion ghouls.
Now,
I
remember,
guess.
we are drawing the desert. That doesn't mean it's the only desert. It means it's the desert, the primordial, great and mighty, the place where the dragon, you know, makes its scions. And then we know that kobolds run around and cause other similar things. So now the forest. Just given where we're working, my temptation is to put the forest here. Just because of where we're working.
It's the green one above the red.
Oh, okay.
Let me use a larger brush.
Gotcha.
This
See,
is my instinct, is to put it like there.
You're thinking like down here, Michael?
Yeah, I was thinking make it pretty big and
I don't want to
And
make
have it,
any of
like,
them too big because the whole point is this is where the dragon lives and there are other places.
yeah.
So I'm trying to resist the temptation to be like, you know, there's 5 seasons and it's just based on where you're standing.
Sure,
Do
sure,
we have
sure.
anything else for the south right now?
No, we're still
Or do
kind
you have any
of...
other
No.
kingdoms built out?
I just was imagining the forest like the way that
Like a
most
boreal
forests
forest.
are, which is, well, it's where a forest... When we're saying forest, do we mean pine trees and oak trees, or do we mean the rainforest? Do we mean palms?
I was thinking pine, but I'm not opposed.
I was also thinking pine.
So pine means cold.
Mhm.
So it would be, in theory, right, nearer to where the boreal dragon, where the dragon of the frost is. There can be other forest dragons, right? The dragon of the deep wood, the dragon of the creeping green, or whatever the hell, is the dragon of trees that don't die, or at least from the outside perspective, are trees that don't die. Now,
I think
the thought that the
this-
dragon of the, you know, the trees that exactly Spencer's like with a little bit more of an
Jungle.
active life cycle taking up.
Jungle biome, forest biome.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's forest.
And I chose minutely different shades of green. I'm going to redraw all these in a minute, so don't worry about labeling.
Yeah, that's fine.
And the jungle being pretty expansive makes sense. Nobody's really going to be living in a jungle. Shit sucks.
All right, so let's zoom in. I'm going to use a more mild color of purple, and I'm going to head to the swamp. So the swamp is now centered in the middle of our screen here. I am going to delete the old swamp border because we can see where it is. How big is the primordial swamp, the swamp from which the swamp from which all other swamp, the Magic the Gathering card from our tie-in campaign in 6 years is going to be wild for blue-black decks. So here's my question: is it, like, in my head, and I'm almost positive that you guys are going to go, not at all what I imagined. In my head, the great and mighty swamp is about that big.
I agree. It is the smallest territory in my
Is
mind
about.
as well.
I do not see what you had drawn. There we go.
I'm
Thank
right
you.
here.
Yeah, I see.
This is what I'm imagining. And I want to be super clear. This is like a swamp the size of the state of, Georgia. This is not a small purple line that we are drawing here. It's pretty titanic.
That's how I see it.
It's just that is huge, and the rest of the continent sort of follows. The other version of it I could see, if we wanted to get a little goofy, which is always fine, is I wouldn't be angry at like that. We're getting a little much, but like that I could see.
See if you're that size of Georgia, that first rank, I wasn't thinking that the continent was that big.
Well, it's got to take a couple of days to cross it, just because. Well, in my head it does, because that's how weather works. If everything is too close together, then it's all the same weather.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like
Except for the dragon.
This is where I'm gonna have to disagree. If somebody has a walking stick, I can't fuck with them walking for one day and passing an invisible wall into winter. I'm not sold on that vision. I simply am not. I can see the gradient existing means we need to have a large amount of space.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
But how big is that space? So, for example, I think the simplest example for me is the swamp. I imagine the swamp is the smallest biome. How small is the smallest? And then I'm going to ask you which one's the biggest.
I did Google it. To cross Georgia on foot, 20 to 27 days. So that is the state. Let me double check that that's the state.
Because I was imagining
Yes,
the state. Yeah. You travel about 20 to 30 miles a day if you're walking.
Mm-hmm.
So that means, we're talking about, you said 27 days. So we're talking about, 540 miles to, add another third onto that, 700 and blah, blah, blah. So that makes it, pretty damn titanic. It's just a question of how big is that? Which of these two lines is the size of, I don't want our continent to be freaky small. I don't love that.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a little smaller than I'm imagining it, but that's fine. So what do you guys think? Just share your thoughts on it.
If we're talking game sense, right? It would take 27 days to cross. Well, that's not the right thing to do. Take 27 days to cross like that. Another 27 days. Another 27 days. And you'd get to
I don't think I could
like
see your
this
map.
kingdom here.
There you go.
Walking that line. Sorry, I forgot that I have to stop clicking. So that's like 80 days or so, 90 days to get from the swamp, the bottom of the swamp, to that section. But if we go from here, it's like 27 and then probably 2 weeks. So it'd take like a month and a half to get from the swamp to the next kingdom. If game sense wise, that's chill. I'm fine with that.
As it is, it makes the entire world smaller than the United States by a substantial margin.
Yeah.
Which is already, for me, pushing it a bit because we want there to be different cultures and different civilizations.
Yeah.
If that can't happen if we live on a postage stamp the size of New York. Like, it just can't.
Yeah.
The bigger the continent is, the more different people can live there, is a good way to think about it.
Yeah, like how big is the fucking Sword Coast? Like the Forgotten Realms? Because when you're playing in the Sword Coast, you're really playing in like one small section of an entire continent, an entire world.
I don't think I can click out, but I can look it up really quick. I can hop on the phone.
Yeah.
Let's take a second
Give it a look.
and take a peek.
Yeah, that's a nice
Or even like
reference, I think.
Theros. I'm gonna look up Theros' size too because Theros feels tiny.
I've done it. Theros is really small. You can cross
Roughly 200 miles across.
Yeah, Theros is very small.
Wait, how many miles?
200.
Whew, yeah, that's tiny.
From Icewind Dale to the Forest of Tithir is about 1,600 miles.
Okay.
on the Sword Coast. And that is one pretty small section.
Yeah.
Let's see. It's some people estimate it is about 5 million square whatevers. All right, so let's look at map of Faerun. Let's get an idea of how big the Sword Coast is in relevance to everything.
And I'm also more open to it because you've already established that there's ships that will bring you to the major locations, like hugging the coastline. So that's totally fine. Like, you don't need to walk from one kingdom to the next. You almost certainly won't walk from one kingdom to the next kingdom. Why would you? You'll do an adventure path in the swamp. You'll hitch a ride to the mountains. Then you'll do an adventure path in the mountains that takes you up to like level 12. And maybe you hit one other kingdom up for a like level 20
Also,
of shit.
the way that most people run D&D games doesn't really matter. Like,
You just hoof
it would
hoof
take
it.
you a month to get there. It's like, yeah, if you're so low level that you can't bamf across
But
the
you walk.
continent at will,
Uh-huh.
players walk until like level
Till, like, level
4.
3.
Yeah, like it's not for long. They don't walk
Yeah.
places for very long before eventually they're like, we gotta figure some other shit out. And all we need to do is describe, the gates of Vindaro, built by the ancient elves that died in ages long past. They say that one day they all stepped through the gates and vanished from the world. It was more magical before they left. And there we go. Like, we did it. The moon elves are on the moon now. They used to live on the planet. And we have the gates of Sindaral, and so you can quickly move around to different parts of the world. That's all you need to do is some shit like that, and you're fine.
I think make it the big size of this.
Yeah.
And that is like 300 miles from base to tip. Because that means that the north is about, what's that? 300, 600, a little beyond 900 miles, like 1,000 miles from the bottom of the swamp to the bottom of the north.
So
Which
then my
1,000
next
miles feels fair to me.
So then my next move is going to be to delete that. So how big is the Arctic of this world? I'm imagining it as being fairly large because tundras are big. They're basically just cold deserts.
Yeah, I agree.
Excuse me.
I think it's big. The spots where you're gonna do stuff is pretty small.
Yeah.
It's being like, yeah, we're gonna go to Icewind Dale. You got the 10 towns, and then you've got like 300 miles of just cold
So
stuff.
that's my instinct. Take a look at that line and see what you think.
Yeah, I was debating between that and like adding. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that little
I
section.
know who you're going with.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can. I don't want to. Again, I don't want the supreme dragon biomes to be so big that they make up the whole continent.
Mm-hmm. Fair. Because the mountain.
Keep the red line there, and let's draw a few more and see
We'll
how
keep
things
that.
develop.
Yeah.
So-
I got you.
All right. So now my next question. This is a very, very important question. Is there a dragon? Is this the mountains? And there is a great dragon of the mountains that slumbers neath their ranges. Or is Mount Everest somewhere else, and these are just some mountains? Right? Because the mountains
I
didn't
think
get a
that-
dragon. We never said there was a dragon in the mountains. So there doesn't need to be one there. The mountain dragon can be over here.
True.
The mountain dragon can be over here. We can stick that thing wherever we want. Is it in the place where the king is?
Can I say this? There should be a mountain dragon that is on the Lost Continent. Mount Everest is on that Lost Continent. So we just have like the leftover mountains here in that area. So it's like, yeah, once.
So it
Once
used
we
to be
had
the mountains,
Yeah,
but it's
but
no
now
more.
it's like,
Okay.
we're just small range.
So that makes me think then Does the mountains probably don't abut against the swamp. They're close-ish, but they probably aren't connected. So that to me means the entire field where the mountains happens is like that big. And it used to be this big. And then the rest of it fucked off somewhere. The rest of the mountains went on vacation and we never found it again.
Yep.
What I think is fun about that is the mountains are really important, and having it be like England makes sense. Yeah, it's tiny, but they're important as shit.
All right, so now I want to draw the desert, and this is another big thing. So the desert, in terms of scale, should be fairly large, but we can kind of decide how big that is. My first instinct, because it is the like central sort of strange caldera, is that it's kind of oddly shaped because deserts do that, and it's like, you know, it's kind of a hole punched in the middle of the continent. That's my first impulse. How do we feel about that? Positive, negative?
Pretty fun.
I like it.
I like it because it makes you feel like a dragon's biome.
Yeah,
And
so
I
that's
think the undead city is, I think, literally just like, I'm going to draw an X. I think it is one safe city. I don't think it's a safe region. I don't think it's a safe state that they've made for themselves. I think it's, no, we live in the city. Oh, what about the undead wandering the wastes? They leave us alone. We're not worried about it. But wait, how do you till fields? Ask me that again. And it's a skeleton. Ask me one more time where I keep my corn or whatever. Don't need it. You know?
We don't need it. We're good. Yeah, it looks badass.
Okay.
yeah.
And it's fun because, like, when it comes to traversing, whoever's on, like, this side of it... Okay, there's something I wanted to establish. Where did we put the burial grounds in the water? Like, there's a specific city that was meant to be, like, yeah, in the port, it's safe.
Oh, yeah, there is a
You can
safe
leave your
channel from the mountains.
So anybody, like, from here over has to kind of go through the desert to get to that spot.
Well,
so it makes sense for why it'd be bad.
wait. So mixed opinion on that. So what we had as true in lore is that you could drop a body just in the ocean. It could go in the shallows, and it would get carried out to sea. To safely traverse out to talk to a dead person, you would need to go all the way there.
Yeah. True.
But
True.
yeah, the real problem is just there are people who live in the desert. And more to the point, as much as there are people who live in the desert, if we're being honest, right, if this journey... So if going from end of the swamp to end of the swamp is 27 days, that means this journey is 2 weeks on foot through a swamp. That's 2 weeks of hard, deadly, dangerous travel. So realistically, right, the band of, oh god, oh man, oh fuck, how are we going to get Pappy to the ocean is like that big. It's kind of huge. And it surrounds the desert. And one of the options is drag the body into the desert. That's what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
It's like, that's just what happens, man. I don't know. Sometimes you can't make
Shouldn't
it.
live there.
And if you can't make it, you can't make it. All right, so my next question, let's figure out the forest. While Spencer attends to his dogs for the 300th time. Look at that violent criminal.
Deadly.
We're talking about how your dogs are criminals.
Yeah, she's ripping up a toy. And I
Never
didn't
behaved
want
a
it
day
to
in their
be
lives.
plastic.
All right.
Benny was chilling.
Benny has been this means nothing to our viewers, but Benny has been so tempered by Noodle's presence. Benny is such a reserved. Benny now seems like a distinguished gentleman, whereas before he was I would describe him as kind of a hot dog bastard man who is always trying to get scraps. Now he's like, oh my god, he's the secondhand embarrassment he has from Noodle.
Noodle off.
Spencer, you unmuted to yell at your dog.
You want everyone to hear him.
All right, so now we got to place the forest and figure out how big it is.
The
So-
forest, I was thinking.
So the forest we have
like-
loosely somewhere in this zone. What is the scope
I
of
was
that?
thinking like that, and like that one truly has like the borders collide.
Between where and where?
The Arctic and the
between-
Forest.
Yeah.
Oh, this.
Now this is actually, funnily enough, this is where I kind of imagined this red line living, but I like it there as well. Let me pitch down to a regular line. Let's go. A forest as a biome is pretty huge. I like.
Yeah, we can make it bigger. I'm not married to my idea.
But I think you're right. I don't want to get too close to the desert.
Because I think that is like, this is the heart of it. And then there's a lot of forests through here. And then there's nothing here, obviously. But this is like the real spot.
This is the redwood forest, and outside is
Yeah,
forest.
but all this is also forests. Then it, cuts out around here, becomes desert, and through there.
Let me build up a little bit of a. Get a little bit of a jacket.
This is where, like, the fairies are that make your children disappear, or whatever. And the rest is regular bear forests.
Let me delete some of these old lines.
not the lines.
Okay. All right. And okay, no, I think that works. I don't think I want the Arctic to be bigger now. Not if that's the size of the forest. Okay, now how
That's
big?
fine by me, because this is all going to be forest as well. This is just the forest.
Now, how big is the jungle? And do jungles go up against water, right? Jungles have to go right up to water because that's how they do
Yeah.
that. They follow the river down from a
Yeah.
mountain. So,
Yep.
I mean, we said we wanted the jungle to be pretty huge. It makes a lot of sense. Big tropical band. It expands very easily. Are we thinking like, I guess, does huge in my head could mean like that. It's like, wow, that's like a sizable portion of the continent if you're thinking of the continent as like a whole thing. Or it can be, some truly titanic nonsense.
Let's make it truly Titanic nonsense.
Okay.
Because I think the jungle is one, like, environment. We're not going to find other little jungles throughout the continent. This is it.
Does the jungle encroach? Like, does it reach out, or is it kind of in its... Because if it's expanding, the border will be more jagged. So the reason I made the border of the desert jagged is deserts get bigger. But the border of the forest and the frost place probably aren't going to be too much larger.
No. It's, like, stuck in the band. It's kind of just there.
So does the jungle push?
I don't think so.
Okay. You're basically just deciding how much do like natural barriers cut it off from other parts of the environment. Okay. I think that gives us a good sense of scale of how big like a dragon's territory is. I think the swamp dragons, and maybe the swamp dragon's territory kind of like extends out to this island. Okay.
That makes sense.
I think it's pretty solid. I think I like it. All right, cool. Any other biomes off the dome that need to make their way in here? Any biomes off the dome?
The only other one, and it'll be a weird one, so I'm very okay with saying no. River biome. River biome. It's weird. It's out there.
It could be like a full river system.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily a biome because it kind of cuts through other biomes. But it's something we could mark down, like where the actual rivers are.
Would we
Such
want
things.
a river dragon?
Well, rivers mean mountains, so we need to draw mountains before we draw rivers, which is fine with me. The river almost certainly feeds into the swamp.
Yep. And through the jungle.
Just because that's how swamp is where water there's a river eventually has so much that it breaks its banks and it occupies the whole area. There's a reason the Mississippi River points towards a bunch of swamps. So if there is like a solid state river with a attached river dragon, then we need to decide where in this area there is a bunch of mountain chains, and we need to see that river. So for example, let's say the reason the jungle hasn't expanded this way is that there is a pretty good sized arid mountain chain that breaks up here. And so that's why the desert doesn't affect the jungle. That's why the jungle doesn't affect the desert. And we can justify that in fiction by saying that's why the dragons don't fight. Right? It's not actually that the mountains keep the dry air from going, because our climate doesn't work that way. It's just the great dragon of the desert doesn't want to expose itself on the wrong side of the mountains. So that would mean that there is a bunch of small rivers feed into a lake here. That lake feeds into a big river that goes through the swamp. And at each of these points, that river gets even bigger and even wider. And we can say that, over here, there's another little cluster of mountains that even feed it wider until finally you get the delta, you get where its banks break. So that would mean that the dragon of the river, rather than having like a territory, would patrol that area, right? It would follow the water back and forth. I'm a big fan of using geography to make maps, by the way. Just a huge tip out there. If you want rivers, you get to draw mountains. Once you know where the mountains and the rivers are, stop, look at your map. If there's no mountains and there's no rivers, it's dry. And that's how you get deserts. And pretty quickly, you're like, oh, I did a whole continent in like 30 minutes. Like, it was not even a big deal. It's a good way to do it.
And these mountains make sense because this is the mountain.
Yeah, and we can say that the tallest mountain now is right there, right on the coast. And
it's like Kilimanjaro.
I think that's a cool image. I think if you're standing on the edge there and you look, it looks like somebody took a big carving knife and sliced through that mountain. And I think it's a mountain that just drops into the fucking ocean. And it looks insanely bizarre because it is. Like, it shouldn't be there.
Question, just because I don't know geography super well. Do rivers flood into jungles at all?
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what feeds the jungle.
Amazon rainforest has the Amazon River in it.
Yeah. So technically the river would also flood into the jungle a little bit.
A different river would.
Different, yep.
The same mountain chain will almost always make two big rivers, one to either side of where the mountains are.
Yeah. I'm just throwing a pitch for the river dragon. All the other dragons seem to be fairly aggressive.
Our forest.
It'd be fun.
Our forest needs a coast.
It does. Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Sorry.
It seems like all the other dragons are fairly aggressive. It'd be fun if this is the one dragon that's not, and it has a river to a few of these other biomes. And it's like the nurturing dragon.
It is kind of a fun thought if the river dragon is the dragon of all. If there's a sense that, because the dragons are so magical, I kind of like the idea that all of the water-affiliated dragons are a little... I think dragons that are very strongly associated with water, air, and earth are a little weirder than the other ones. Like, I think the dragon of the swamp, right? It's kind of mundane. It's a dragonfly. It's like insectile. It's very real. It's very
Chilling.
corporeal. The ice dragon sleeps and hunts. Kind of like the idea that the dragon of the river like grants wishes every once in a while is like a really different kind of vibe. The dragon of the ocean like gives prophecies and shit, I think, if I'm remembering what we were talking about, right? They're different. I think there's probably a dragon of the sky that never lands, that just flies eternal in some great cycle through the sky that occasionally you see. And there's another dragon that tunnels. There's the dragon of the earth, or the dragon of the mountain maybe was it. Maybe it was tunneled and now it's sequestered off because that's where it was tunneling. And, you know, the dirt from under its movements makes the mountains.
Made the mountains.
Okay. So I'm going to redraw... I'm going to redraw this mountain chain before it drives me completely batty.
You'll like it?
No. I'm an obsessive. All right, let's get in here with... Let's do regular, because none of these are the mountains, right?
Correct.
No.
Yeah, I think even the river goes into the desert just a little. It's one source of a little bit of water.
It trickles down into like a stream by the time it touches the
but it's not a river anymore, but it feeds it just a little bit.
It's where the animals that do exist in the desert get their bit of water to survive. Camels, etc.
It would mean that there would be green around it. There's no such thing as desert with where river is, desert is not. So, like, for instance, the Nile River is a good example. It's just like a ribbon of green through the middle of an otherwise quite sandy expanse. My question is, like, so the dragon of the desert is chill with that? Has no say? How does that work?
Yeah, it's because it's the river dragon. He's that weird one where everyone's kind of okay with him.
Yeah, the dragon of the desert might not. I would even say might not even like it. Are you gonna go fuck with the dragon that can grant wishes? You're the desert dragon, brother. I don't think that you're punching above your weight class if you're trying to do that. Don't fuck with the sky dragon, brother. Yeah, the sky's touching everybody's biome. Are you insane? No.
I'm doing cheap mountains. So anybody watching, this is how you do cheap mountains. You just give them a little bit of depth, a little bit of texture, just enough that if somebody squints, they're like, "Oh, I see what's a mountain and what's a river."
Those are mountains.
All right. Let me do one or two more of these little peaks. And this is something I want to say. I'm going to make a comment kind of about the existence of hobbies in the modern world and about this kind of stuff as a result of it. If you draw a map for your game with your friends, it doesn't have to be good. And if one of your friends gives you a really hard time because it's not good enough, stop being friends with them. That person sucks. I'm serious. Like, that's one of my least favorite is the like I don't know, I can I don't even know how to put it's if you Spencer a while ago, I'm gonna give an example of Spencer doing a joke version of the real thing. I got swimmer's ear a while ago from wearing headphones too much at work, and Spencer just sent bro swims referencing a meme. If you have somebody in your life who you're like, oh no, yeah, I love to swim, and they go like, bro swims, immediately cut that person out of your life. Like that's
don't know that meme.
Because the meme that Spencer was referencing was just people that are mean to their friends, the meme.
Oh.
Yeah, it's literally being an ass. Like, it's just a guy like this, like a drawn meme face going, bro swims. When somebody says, oh yeah, I love swimming. Yeah, I competed in high school. Bro swims. Yeah, no,
everybody like that is a perfect waste of oxygen. And if you're listening right now and you're like, I do that, in this moment, you're wasting oxygen. You should stop being like that. Hey, straight up, this is something you will almost never hear me say. Change the way you are. Like, that's not a good way to be. Fix that shit. Get that looked at. All right, I'm going to draw a couple more quick mountains here, and then we can scooch on. I love the idea that this mountain chain was cut almost. Like, you can see the line. Do we have any fan theories? We don't need to decide right now. What happened to the Lost Continent. Like, what happened there, huh?
The the ocean dragon and mountain dragon got in a fight.
Oh, this is what's telling you not to have the elemental dragons get into it. Like, hey, that's pretty cool. I thought a fragment of divinity might have decided to break away and did it, but because we've so established this as being the mountain dragon's locale, I think that makes more sense. Or maybe the mountain dragon just tunneled too deep, pulled a dwarf, and then it broke off.
I like it.
Sorry, I'm giving dimensions to cheat mountains.
You're good.
All right.
No, I really like this. It's a very...
This is a bad map.
Yeah. It's definitely formed into something really cool.
It's definitely unique. I don't think I've seen one with giant, like, snakes that affect the tides before.
Nope.
All right. So
That's one of one.
a couple more fun little lessons about geography. Number one, anywhere on a mountain chain that it does this, that it makes this friendly looking horseshoe, that's what lakes is. That's what a lake is. A lake is a friendly horseshoe because you have all of this inflowing water from coming down from the mountains as snow melts. So we do have seasons, for the record. That's important. We have seasons. Seasons are a thing, and we're going to have to figure out why there are seasons. And in these areas where it creates kind of a basin, that water is most likely going to first flow to a central location, and then from those central locations flow out. So now I can get to the work of actually this stuff. So if these various and sundry rivers, they probably shouldn't all kind of magically, right, know where to go. So a lot of them are going to combine and kind of reinforce with each other. And then there are some that are going to kind of wander off the trail. We're going to need another mountain chain over here so that we can have a little bit more water going into that forest there. But that should be enough to like kind of fuel a lot of this growth here. And then from here, this river gets even more. So we can even say that this one like whips around, and we just know that elevation wise, right? We go up here a little bit, just enough that that one does this. This one goes round, and because we have a desert there, it wraps. So that's like a very long section that connects. These we all know go down because this is the mountains, and this is the river system that the mountains function on. Yes, along with that one. And then this one can do the same and kind of reinforce that. So that means the mountains are actually going to need to be just a little bit bigger than we pitched them we pitched them being at first. They need to be like that big so that they cover both river sections. Wow, so that makes what they're doing at the mountains really impressive and make a lot of sense, right? So that means our giant stronghold, let me pick a more bold, I'm gonna go just like a very bright red. That means our giant stronghold is like right here, is that red line, because that's how they have control of both sides of a mountain range. One of the hardest things to do in all of history is they have this central location that they can kind of bring people to and out of. All right, cool. So we've got a couple of rivers, a couple of those ideas. There's almost certainly, I'm just going to draw the river. I'm not going to bother drawing the mountains yet. There also needs to be, coming from a mountain chain probably around here, there should be some rivers that kind of, spin down through this section and help make this place be what it is, including some melt from the north and then this other section. And when you haphazardly draw your coast, you're probably going to draw little inlets like this here and this here. Hey man, that's just where your rivers go. Draw arrows that go from mountains to those, and that's what a river is. And then every now and again, just do this. Make your river do some funky stuff, because that's just what rivers do.
Give that river a loop-de-loop.
Right.
With that, we have hit an hour and a half on Game Master or DM Writers Room time, which is our cut.
I was wondering if we were gonna roll past the line a little bit. We were gonna see what the vibe is. All right.
The only other thing before we cut off,
Say it quickly.
Just because I know I'll forget, we talked about seasons a little bit. Thoughts on it being controlled by the Fae? Have the Fae courts, the summer court, the winter court.
Scary. Michael, you're being so scary right now.
Spencer deeply has a deep malevolence for Fae in any of his games.
It's so big to add in another court of powerful beings.
It doesn't have to be Fae, it could be spirits.
We haven't touched if there are other planes in any way, shape, or form. We just haven't even touched that yet. So I think the answer, we can just say, like, the Feywild or whatever, the wilds with a Y is why there are seasons, and then cover it a later day. Or we can say, no, there is some natural reason. Our world doesn't run on any natural reason. So my only question would be like, what the hell is it? Like, why is it hot sometimes and cold sometimes? Where does that cycle come from? I don't hate the idea that it's the kind of whims of this outside plane that pull on our world like the moon pulling on the tides on our own planet, and that's just how it works. And what it would mean is the planes would kind of like maybe drift in and out. So we would have two choices. Either one, summer and winter are the only things that really pull on the plane. And it's just that
in between.
It's just that at fall and spring they are far, and at summer and winter they are close. And that's why cold nighttime during winter is the nightmare scenario, because nighttime is dangerous because the moon is evil. Forgot if the moon was evil, in case you did. So nighttime's dangerous because the moon is evil. And if then these like winter spirits of hunger begin to leach into the world as the gap between our world and that world become thin, then you have a time of year that is like truly dangerous. Or there are four and the two planes are always relatively close together.
I like the first one. It's fun for it to just be banded.
With that, you all, including Spencer and Michael, who have never been along for my geographic map making practice live before, this is a little peek at how I do maps. And how you can do maps collaboratively. It was really fun to be like, where do we want to put this thing? Where do we want to put that thing? And shift it around. Being able to say like, oh, well, I think the forest should be here and it should be huge. And then it's then getting to ask like, wait, what kind of forest? And you're like, oh yeah, there could be more than one big forest. And so we can put a jungle on one side and a more, like northern kind of European, hemispheric forest on one side. And you can kind of make some choices. And then once you know where your forests are, you can start to work backwards. If you have a forest, you need a river. If you have rivers, you need mountains. If you have mountains and rivers, you've got lakes. And you can really quickly fill things in and add until, without having to have done anything other than picked a couple of fun cities and fun spots, the map will make itself make sense.
And we know if you have rivers, you need magic-giving, wish-giving dragons.
Yeah, and just stick a magical wish dragon in there. Just put it in wherever you feel like. All right, with that, thank you all so much for accompanying us on this journey. It just occurred to me I didn't say, we can't see chat because we're using Roll20. So if you've been furiously telling us, I said they needed to put the desert in the hills, I didn't hear you. And I'm deeply sorry. We'll circle back on it another time. That is our time here with the world. Next time we'll either be we're either going to the plains or we're going to the forest, and I'm not sure which. We're gonna have to figure that out. But
we have plains biome, we forgot about it.
I've not PLAINS, PLANES. And so with that, thank you all so much for tuning into another episode. I hope you learned something about DMing today. We will catch you on the next one. Peace out.